Hi, welcome to the Muslim Street. I am Malik Aziz, along with some very informative information for you, along with our guest. I want to hold 1 second, a little audio check here, guys. 1 second. There we go. Today, we're joined by, of course, our Mobley, founding member of the National Association of Black Journalists, and, of course, a co-convener of the Darfur 23. Along with him, we have Dr. Viper White, congressional candidate in Orlando. We're going to make sure that we get out and stuff the ballot. Just vote over and over and over and over and over again. I'm from Chicago, and so this is what we do. You know, people vote in Chicago. You died like a decade ago, you're on the rolls. Your vote counts. Your vote counts because, it's only been 10 years since you've been dead. Get up, go vote. So these people elected. I am Malik Aziz. I am the founder, editor of The Muslim Street. You can find us on www.themuslimstreet.com, online periodical. We have some great articles up there. Go check them out. Subscribe, like, and share. You can find us all across all social media except X. We got banned from there a long time ago. And, we'll talk about that some other time. However, this is where we start. A little homework for the listening audience before we jump into our topic. And that is go study the framework of what was called Charlie Wilson's War. This is from a former congressman from Texas, Charlie Wilson, late 70s, early 80s, and you'll understand where we're going. So I'm calling this, what you saw in Iran, I'm calling this the Jeffrey Epstein's War. At the behest of the white supremacist, apartheid, ethno-Zionist state of Israel, like the coward President Donald Trump is, the United States has intensified and invaded and created a war in Iran during the month of Ramadan, while people are literally fasting. That's what a coward does. Trump has ordered 30 to 50,000 troops stationed across at least 19 locations, including major bases in Bahrain, which was bombed by Iran, and the people on the streets in Bahrain were actually clapping and applauding. Other Israeli and United States allies, Qatar and Saudi Arabia just came out and declared war with the United States and Israel against Iran. That's a Shia Sunni thing on the lesser scale. On a bigger scale, it's a power play that's been going on since the death of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And they simply had placed them on high alert a few days ago. And I talked about and this is something I talked about over 10 days ago, that Trump has sent the carrier strike groups and 2 aircraft carriers, including the USS Gerald Ford and the USS Abraham Lincoln, to the region. The Abraham Lincoln, which will be refueling in Qatar, which is going to make Qatar a target for the Iranians. They'll blow that up, and then oil. 25% of the oil reserves that are in the world will be affected. You'll be paying $10 a gallon for gas very soon, coming to a gas station near you. All of this is to obviously control what we have been looking for way back in 1953 when the United States, via the CIA, overthrew a democratically elected government of Premier Mohammed Mossadegh. They have revisited who they placed in power. His son, Reza Pahlavi, who was the son of the last Shah of Iran, who was overthrown in 1979, who was an American puppet. He is currently under heavy security placed by the CIA and Israeli Mossad forces, poised for the establishment of a U.S. Israeli-controlled puppeteer state in the Strait of Hormuz. This is going down right now. What we don't know, and what you're going to find out very soon, is that the Strait of Hormuz is going to be a particular a breeding ground for the defeat of the United States Army and their military services and their naval services over in that region. Once they run out of weapons, they will be trapped inside of the Strait of Hormuz. In order to get back and forth, it takes over a week. This thing is going to be over with fast. Trump wants to get in and out before the bloodshed. But the bigger question is, Trump said bump the War Powers Act, and definitely the Democratic opposition, which has totally disappeared. I don't know whether they're on a picnic or something. I mean, this is incredible because they're controlled by the same forces that control Trump. On one side of the aisle, the Democrats are controlled by the Israeli and the Zionist lobby and their money and their blackmail campaign, this whole Epstein thing, and as well as Donald Trump, who is totally compromised. So there you are. This is Jeffrey Epstein's war, and this is where we start. Art Mobley, what do you say?
Well, yeah, I can agree that Jeffrey Epstein has fingerprints all over this thing, unfortunately, and people are terrorized at the administrative level, and they need a distraction. This is a perfect distraction. War is always a distraction. Wag the dog, whatever you got to do, wag the horse, you know, throw a dragon out there and put it on the grill, do something to distract from, of course, the things that are going on behind the curtain over there with the guy with the switches. It's sad. It's really sad that we have a knee-jerk reaction and a knee-jerk government that just is so inclined and so quick to go to a war footing and just start killing people essentially. So the supreme leader of the Iranian movement, of course, that's Khamenei, Ayatollah Khamenei, Ayatollah Khomeini, who was certainly preceded Khamenei. Most Americans don't know the difference. They just think, oh, well, it's Ayatollah, but that just means that you won't know when the next Ayatollah appears on the scene that, they're not skipping a beat. When the Iranian Revolution happened back in 79, of course, it was such a groundswell and organic revolution that the people and the students, down to the students who took over the American embassy because they found out that it was basically an Israeli outpost, as we know now, a CIA outpost, which were really one and the same, unfortunately, was really plotting the destruction of their culture, destruction of their revolution as they moved forward to get rid of the Shah of Iran, whose wife was taking baths in milk while people were starving on the streets. The comparisons and the nonsense that were going on to some of the most hideous regimes in history were very striking. But nevertheless, that whole scenario was going down at the time the embassy was taken over. And of course, the students that took over the embassy, we know what happened then. Those of us who are old enough know that the embassy was essentially sacked, the U.S. Embassy. 52 American personnel who were at the embassy were held. Some of them got away, and they've made movies about them, but they were held for a long time. I believe it was almost a year or a little over a year. You can go back and look at the Ted Koppel shows and ascertain what happened. But that revolution has been continuous. At that time, the Ayatollah Khomeini, who was in Europe, came back out of Europe after the Shah was run out of the country and essentially came to religious power. He came in as the Ayatollah, and it was essentially a movement to put the church, kind of like the Pope is in Europe, only makes more sense. But the Ayatollah came in and took over things in Iran and led essentially spiritually that movement. And people in Iran appreciated it from stem to stern. It was a very, very serious, complete revolution. And I don't even understand why, at this point in time, the Israelis or the U.S. would even have the imagination, that they could go into Iran and split Iran up, break Iran up, if only for the fact that they're dealing with subsequent generations. They're hoping that people have gotten so far away from the 79 revolution that they won't remember. There will be no instruction and no continuity of that movement. And if you have half a brain cell, you would know that certainly that wouldn't be the case and that the revolution would be complete and continuous. So it will adhere and it will stay together, and they will appoint another Ayatollah leader. The country will continue to move in the same direction that it's moved in for the past however many years you can add from 79 to now. But the Israelis and the U.S. will find out in the next few days, unfortunately, they will find out just how strong, how powerful, how contiguous that revolution is. They think that it will be a departure from what happened last summer after the 12-day war, when Israel was screaming to cease the bombing that came from Iran. They will find out that they're going to pick up just where they left off, and you're going to be in just as much trouble today as you were then, even though you've got the U.S. fleet flanking you out in the two Gulfs. I'll go ahead and stop there.
Okay. So before I bring Dr. White in, I want to kind of set this up. Yes, it's been reported that the Fifth Fleet is in trouble, and this is good news. It's good news, and as a listening audience, when you hear us talk, when we refer to the United States military and their imperialist missions, we don't say we. Black people ain't got nothing to do with that. Muslims ain't got nothing to do with that. It shows really when you say we that your mentality belongs to your oppressor. Now, Dr. White, I want to set this up as you can look at the screen. You're running for congressman out of Orlando, and an election that's coming up. Donald Trump, a year ago, when he was campaigning, a year and a half ago, right up to the his second presidency, he ran on this whole thing. Oh, no more wars. It's too expensive. We're not into the regime change. And if you look at that screen, in 1 year, Iran, Venezuela, both strikes in Latin America, Nigeria, Somalia, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, and Cuba next on the list. I mean, what are we doing here, Dr. White?
Well, first of all, it's not a knee-jerk reaction. This is a policy of the United States that's been going on for quite some time. If you look at the administrations of Obama, Clinton, and Bush, the three of them alone killed over 11 million Muslims, and they went into several countries. What Trump is doing is nothing more than what the establishment, the political elite, the political dark side has told him what to do. So even though he came in saying no more wars and we're not into regime change, it doesn't make a difference what he says is what they say, and we have to understand that. He is part of a larger scope. Now, what the American voter have to understand is that they have to ask the basic question: what does these regime changes mean to the American people? Remember, they've been trying to do that in Iran for many, many years, Cuba, and since 1963. What does it mean? It means nothing to the American people. That is, it doesn't benefit them one iota. It doesn't change their life. They get no money from it or nothing. It benefits the political elite. And that must be said over and over and over again. Now, in reference to people of African descent, now you just said that the Fifth Fleet was in trouble. Keep in mind that 39% or more of the military men and women that's in the fighting units are African Americans. while we only represent 11 to 12% of the population. So we see that we're being used as cannon fire for somebody else's conflict, as you stated, Epstein's war. What's also interesting about all of this is that notice that when Trump and his gang, and I could put it a gang, Trump and his gang went into Venezuela, it was during the weekend. When they went into Iran, also during the weekend. Why is that? The financial institutions are closed. That has a direct effect on what they're trying to do, close out. Another element, going back to what Brother Art stated, and that this was no more than a diversion. Remember, for 3-4 weeks, Epstein and his gang was in the news. Now it's an automatic shift to the to this war. All right, try to get the American people off of it, while the Epstein gang, they do their maneuverings behind closed doors to make money off of this activity. That's what's taking place. And then you have to utilize the fact that that there is, like you said, Brother Malik, is going to be a strong response to this. Now, what I found interesting today was there's a man by the name of Minister Eichmann Safadi. He represents a group that represents 57 Arab and Muslim countries. He came out this morning and stated, "Oh, well, we can guarantee the safety of Israel." It made me disgusted. I mean, it sounded like he was begging, he is pleading, he is whining. And how the hell can they guarantee guarantee Israel's safety? They can't even guarantee their own. The group that guarantees Israel's safety so far has been the United States, and the United States alone. You see? So, I mean, so there's a lot of things that's going on. So we have to look at this very carefully. I oppose this conflict. And lastly, the War Powers Act, all of that is disingenuous. The Democrats didn't do it with Biden. They didn't do it with Obama. They didn't do it with Clinton. All right? The Republicans didn't do it. They're not doing it now. All right? And they didn't do it with Bush. All of this is a BS game, which means nothing. It's nothing more than a diversion that makes them look like they're doing something, that they care about the American people, and it makes and it gives the impression that there is a true democracy in this country. All of that is BS. There has to be a reworking, and the truth has to be told to the American community.
Great stuff. So, Art, before we jump into a question, China, one of their biggest importers of oil is Venezuelan and Iran. This is going to affect them. I'd like you to jump in and talk about it. Before we do it, here's a fun fact. You mentioned 1979 and the Islamic Revolution in Iran. I was 18 years old, off season in football, and I was working on campus, Dr. White, at a resource center, English as a second language. And we had a host of Iranian, Persian sisters who would come and they would rent the, or they would, sign in. I would sign them in to take the English as a second language tapes. And then they started slipping me information, read Bonnie Sada, read about the revolution. And here I am, 18 years old. I'm coming into my consciousness, but at 18, you really got nothing but passion at this point, right? I'm a neophyte, right? But they help educate me on geopolitics vis-a-vis the Middle East, right? Shia versus Sunni, the whole depth of that issue, which Dr. White, you said, this 57 countries, they're all Sunni and they're coming against standing with Israel and all that. I'd like to talk about that a little later, literally what the root of that is. But just a fun fact, Art, I'm my international geopolitics and my interest in that and developing it came from these sisters from Iran in their hijabs. It was 7 or 8 of them. Me, an 18-year-old boy dressed in a little suit and tie at the resource center, slipping me information directly from Iran. power to the people.
Absolutely. And that was social media back in 1980,
Yeah, that's right.
that style. That's how we did it. And that's why I'm so optimistic about what's going on today, even though we have these elements that are trying to grab social media, control the narrative, and all of the things that they're saying. The fact is that there is a narrative, and it's one that they're struggling to control, because that information that you were fed back then, information that many of us have access to now and continue to know, because we have people around who were there, who know, and who are willing to share that information. We have that purview, and that's very helpful.
Hey, before you jump in on the China thing. As you mentioned, the control of social media. I don't know if the audience is aware of this. Dr. White, I'd like you to pine in on this too, is that last week, Larry Ellison, owner of Paramount, a extreme Zionist, purchased CNN from Warner Brothers. The staffers at CNN, the only thing going to be left is that Zionist Dana Bash and Jake Tapper. But after that, Gabby Phillips, if you don't get along with the line, you're out of here. So, Art, what do you think about the Zionists through Barry Weiss to control the CBS News? They already, through Rupert Murdoch, owned Fox News, where they got half the country freebasing off of that garbage, and then MSNBC, which is a joke anyway. But go ahead.
Yeah, and you got certainly Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, and by the time you essentially get done with it, you can put all of the major media owners into a small boardroom as big as the one that you're sitting in, and there'll be room enough left for somebody that's really big, But it's sad, but they are forgetting that we have the entire internet to work with now, and we've never had that before. The only thing that keeps modern media and mainstream media popular is the fact that they are leaning off of these legacy broadcast organizations, and they're essentially trying to pin themselves historically to something that historically they just can't keep their hands around. It's just too big. It's grown too cumbersome, and everybody goes now to the web for news and information, and that means the complete web across the boards. And it's something that they can't control, because the international web is the World Wide Web, and it is going to continue to be voluminous. So the only thing that will keep people stuck to mainstream media is just the idea that there's nothing else there. And those people really don't exist anymore, especially among young people, who I'm really excited about. And some of them are calling into the Muslim Street and
put a couple of questions.
But Art, I won't call it a death knell as of yet. I mean, for example, David Ellison.
Death knell, I didn't call it a death knell, but go ahead.
Well, I won't go in that direction. But I mean, David Ellison, who is the son of Larry Ellison. Now, remember, with this buy, not only will they control CNN, but also Warner Brothers, which is now Paramount, CBS, HBO. Now, also what's really interesting here is that there is a side group that no one really mentions. It is called the Oracle. All right. The Oracle was founded by Larry Ellison, and it is a friend. They paint themselves as friends of the Israeli Defense Force.
Yes.
And they have given billions of dollars in this. So by them being able to have CNN and others, they're still able to push a narrative, all right? Maybe not as strong, but a narrative that influences and that is used by the political elite in Washington and on Downing Street and throughout the Western world. This is very, very dangerous. Also, what's interesting about this, I looked at the board members of the Oracle. Very interesting group of people. But the one that I found most interesting, they always use one of us. is a sister by the name of Awa Ablo. She's a Ghanaian, reared and educated in Great Britain. All right. She is the one now that's leading their, their communication channels, getting their messages out, which is one, again, Zionist, anti-Black, anti-African, anti-anyone who is not Zionist, for the most part. And that's a very, very interesting group. So it's still very, very dangerous, and they're still out there, and we have to watch them closely and be in a position to counter them at every turn. If we don't,
So Art, I titled this session and discussion Dar Ul-Harb. It is an Arabic term for the house of war. America has become Dar Ul-Harb. I talked about China. Do they sit back on the sidelines of this? If they jump in, we have now entered World War III.
Yeah, it's China, and Russia is also feeding things into this situation as well. But it is difficult to say at this point how much of a role they are willing to play to save Iran. I would think that it would behoove both China and Russia and even India, even though, I know you've got a sidebar with Modi and what he did a couple of days ago to get to Netanyahu and do that hug fest thing that they did, but it was also a couple of other elements behind the scenes that were going on. But I'll let you deal with that, Malik. I know you've got that information, but China can. This is really about cutting off fuel supplies to China. And with Venezuela out of the picture temporarily, Iran certainly could be the next domino to fall that will really put China in a difficult situation where fuel reserves and that continuation of the large amount of fuel oils that China imports every day. A lot of it comes through the Straits of Hormuz and was coming from Venezuela as well. So as this world cranks the ratchet and attempts to cut off not only Iran and the Arab world, Africa and the many growing and developing countries with much larger needs for fuel oil, they also want to cut off China. And that will destroy the whole Silk Road movement because it will choke off oxygen to the Silk Road movement, which has to come right through Iran. If you look at the geographic aspects of it, and that's the route to Africa and Europe that China definitely needs in order to continue those economic or have those roads reemerge and feel beneficial to China. But
Dr. White, is this World War III looming?
It is. First of all, China must support Iran if it gets hot, and I'll tell you the reason why.
It's hot.
Iran, China gets 80% of its oil from Iran.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Secondly, they lost Venezuela. The world is looking. All right, and the world is asking, well, Venezuela was your friend. Why didn't you become more aggressive in supporting Venezuela? And this question is not just being asked in Latin America, but throughout the global South. Because now we have to understand that we're almost back into a Cold War, whereby sides are being picked. And so therefore, sides are saying, who is going to defend me the most? Who will be my best friend when things get hot? Along with that, if they cannot, if they allow Iran to be destroyed and be partitioned, and that's what the United States wants to do, then Russia and China has lost all credibility as being a defense partner. They cannot see Iran go down at all. So they have to be tough. They have to be aggressive. And if it means that they have to fight, they have to fight. It wouldn't be the first time. I mean, remember back in the Korean War. I mean, actually, it was the Chinese that was fighting with the North Koreans against the Americans and the South Koreans, and they pushed the South Koreans back to the parallel line. So yes, China has to be there. Russia has to be there, and they have to be there strong. There cannot be any more lip service and letter writing and saying that, well, this is bad, and America is going against international law. All right, they have
China has a significant naval contingent in the theater, in the Persian Gulf area, Indian Ocean area, as we speak, and they are helping the Iranians monitor communications and movement of the U.S. Fleet, and also those things that are coming directly out of Israel. But what was happening in the last year's skirmish between Israel and Iran that I mentioned earlier, that was cut short because Israel really had to cry uncle. They were really in a very difficult situation. That's why they waited until the U.S. got more involved and was able to send a much more of a presence into the area, because they know that they can't do this without the U.S. fleet. They know that they can't do this without the support of Europe, and they've certainly doled out a lot of cash to pay to get that support, and they've got the best military defense that money can buy. And who has more money in the world right now than Israel to toss around? Yeah. So definitely is a different picture, and China is there. But when it comes to a shooting war and a match to put their populations and their military and their equipment and what have you in an exposed position, that is still that's a wild card. That's a wild card. We don't know what that's going to be, and so it'd be great if we did, but we have to wait and see how this plays out, unfortunately. Yeah. And
we have a side country there too, and that is Pakistan. I mean, Pakistan has already warned Israel, because everyone knows that Israel has nuclear.
That's all of Pakistan.
That's absolutely. And Pakistan stated that if they get one hint that Israel will utilize their nuclear, they will utilize theirs against Israeli forces. And that was a strong comment. And that was a good comment. You see?
And Russia's done the same thing. Russia's also, a long time ago, said that it had a mutual defense pact with Iran years ago and declared that. And I know that those things still stand. It's also voiced some similar ideas and notions. And I only mention it in that framework because we don't see them as being aggressive on the opposite side as we see the U.S. behind Israel right now. And I think that that would certainly be a scale balancing thing for that to be a little bit more or a lot more upfront and out in the open. This is the Muslim street, and I know that we've got a number of people who are sending texts and messages in, and I know Malik, you were going to start to get a little bit of audience involvement, which would be great.
Yeah. Lance, if you could put one or two of those quotes up or questions or statements, that'd be good. We can also speak to them while Lance is digging for those. I just want to, Dr. White brought up something very significant that I want the listening audience to understand in terms of the complexity of what they might see as Muslim disunity. One, if you want to talk about something that is not a monolith, it is the world of Islam. How did this happen? And I'll give you a Reader's Digest version of it. Dr. White need to write an article and we publish it on the Muslim Street, taking them into the whole historical context of it and details of the split. Now, here we go. So listen very carefully before we jump into Lance posting a few comments. After the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's one question that arose amongst the believers, amongst the Muslims, and that is, who shall rule? Who will be the leader? Right? His best friend, Abu Bakr Sadiq, emerges when he finds Muslims lamenting over the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he becomes the first of four rightly guided ones, also in Arabic known as the Khalifa Rashidin. This is Abu Bakr Sadiq, Umar ibn al-Khattab, Uthman al-Affan, who married two of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's daughters, and then the last one was Ali. Okay, now, so then there arises what was called the Great or the Big Fitna, and this is the war of several of the Islamic divisions that arose after the Prophet. The first is Ahl Sunnah. This is the largest one. Then you have the Shia, and then the last one was the Khawarij. And this is right around 657, 658 after the Prophet ﷺ. Now, these three groups go to war over that one question: who shall rule? The Sunnis won out. This leaves the Khawarij, who are literalists, right? And you can find the Khawarij, you haven't heard much about them, but you can find them in pockets of Oman, in places, pockets of in North Yemen, and also in pockets of North Africa, but very small, not a significant force today. However, they were literalists. The Shia and the Khawarij, they, as a result of losing the Great Fitna, and losing, if you will, the banner of who should rule to the Sunnis, they self-identify vis-a-vis the Sunnis. The Sunnis being the ones who were in power, they sought stability. They wanted to look at and kind of keep intact the order of things. So they self-identify not vis-a-vis the Shia and the Khawarij, but vis-a-vis the non-Muslims. They wanted good relations with the non-Muslims. That's why if we fast forward all the way into European colonialism in the latter part of the 19th century, it enters into the Muslim world basically unopposed, you know? So why? Because the Sunnis are in charge. This is the whole rise of the House of Saud. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was no Saudi Arabia. There was no kingdom of Saudi Arabia. That's an invention of the 20th century, coming out of European colonialism, and we can talk about that later, and I'll address that in an article that I will write extensively on this period. During this period of Sunni rule, we do see right around the 3rd and 4th century Hijra on the Muslim calendar, where there's a rise of the Shias, known as the Century of the Shia. They are the ones who established in Egypt the University of El Azhar. That was done under the Fatimiyya. The Fatimiyya was Shia, right? But their rule in the whole context of the last 1,400 years is very minimal. So Ahl Sunnah, the Sunnis are interested in stability vis-a-vis non-Muslims. That's why we see 57 countries coming together, right? Against who? The Shia, who are Iranians, right? Because the Iranians are not interested in the present order of things. By no means that they will allow and have settled for the relationship of the Muslim world to the non-believers, okay, to the non-Muslims. That's why you see the revolutionary spirit of Ayatollah Khomeini coming out of France, sent cassette tapes in there, Bani Sadr, and all this stuff. That's why you see that revolutionary spirit always amongst the Shia, and always now hubbed in Iran. And the last point, Dr. White, before we jump in on this, is that if you look at the genocide in Gaza, who came to the support of the Palestinians who were Sunni, who came to the support of them? It wasn't the Saudi Arabians, it wasn't the Emiratis, it wasn't the Qataris, who are all in the pocket of the West because they're only interested in what? Stability in that relationship vis-a-vis non-Muslims. Who came to their support? It was Hezbollah, Shia. It was the Iranians, Shia. It was the Yemenis and the Houthi, all Shia, because they do not want to settle for the present order of things, and we will always see the revolutionary force and the spirit come out of the Shia as it relates to that. Dr. White.
Well, I can't add on to your analysis. I mean, your analysis is clear, straightforward, and to the point, and you put it together very, very well. The question is that we who live in the West, what can we do to support or to stop the type of madness that the United States is doing and her allies to the Muslim countries and to the African countries in this manner? Because as one of you said, today it's Iran, yesterday it was Venezuela, tomorrow it may be Cuba. And that's what Marco Rubio is speaking about. So we need to have a formation, some type of policy, some type of directive that can stop this, because it's getting to the point that not only will it destroy the whole concept of self-determinism and sovereign rights, but it ultimately would destroy the United States from within itself. So
we've got.
Go ahead, Brother Art.
Yeah, I was going to say we got white supremacist overtones in all of this. Absolutely. Because what we're doing is outlining the division between the global South and the global North. And unfortunately, you say 57 nations in Islam, and then you look at Africa, and Africa's 54 countries. They've got everything so subdivided among those two areas that they can actually just speak as though the rest of us aren't even in the room. So we have got to, Africa and the Islamic world have to create some alliances that will supersede what is happening currently, because that's our only solution that we could do. We have to really find some unified ways to communicate. If the Sunni Muslims are not going to be counted on to do what they need to do, they'll do that at their own demise, because they will be, if you're sitting at it and comparing it to a lunch, they'll be the dessert. These people don't care about Muslim people. They don't care about Islamic people on either side. And just
absolutely. And just add on to that, a great question, Dr. White, in terms of solutions. Where do we go from here? A couple things, a couple points in history, and I'll start recent and then go further back. And that is the Darfur 23. We found ourselves on the banks of the Nile River in Sudan and Khartoum, where there was a conflict going on. A bigger conflict was that the United States wanted to divide the country into two, obviously to steal the oil reserves in the South, which was culminated under the Obama administration in 2011. We warned as early as 2007. We spent 30 days there and on a fact-finding mission as trying to create the peace between conflicts on the African continent. This is very critical to what I'm going to answer in terms of the solution to the issues that's going on with the Muslim world. Oh, by the way, which makes up 25% of the world's population of over 8 billion people. Now, so what we can do is what we attempted to do there is, one, come back and heighten the contradiction between Western imperialism and African resources. Two, serve as a independent force to dial down conflicts on the African continent. And the third thing was continuing education in terms of consciousness, or raising the level of consciousness of the people. And then that's where we build mass interest and mass movements around our ideas. The second thing is I titled this show Ul-Harb, the House of War. There's also a term in Islam called Darul Hutna. Darul Hutna means truce. So historically, the Muslims were taking heavy losses during the time of the Prophet ﷺ while he was in Medina. And they would not let the Muslims make the Hajj annual pilgrimage to Mecca during that time. So what happened? The Prophet ﷺ and the Meccans, who were the opposition force, met in a place called Hudaybiyah. And they negotiated a truce. And that's what Darul Hutna, the house of truce, that's what it means, right? So this truce that was negotiated between the Muslims favored the opposition. And even the Sahaba, his companions, were very upset about this. And they even asked him, would not even accept that he signed the contract of the truce with that he was with the seal of the prophets. They said, no, we need you to sign that you're the son of Abdullah. Or Ibn Abdullah. That's why when I see Muslims, especially black Muslims, there's one particular group here likes to do that. When they say the prophet's name, they'll say Ibn Abdullah. Don't ever say that. It's disrespectful. Because this is the way that the Kufa only accepted that truce from the Prophet ﷺ in our history. So after what came out of the truce art is that a fine point was negotiated with there would be no more wars for 10 years. And the Meccans went for that, right? Even though they were heavily favored throughout the truce. Now, here was the thing. Then I'll get to what we can do around Darul Hutna, right? Now, so what happened was in that 10 years, with no more wars, the Muslim ranks swelled. And then it was time. 10 years was over with. The Muslims marched back from Medina with 10,000 soldiers. By the time they reached Mecca to take back the house of the Kaaba, it was 100,000. And then, of course, the Prophet ﷺ put his chin to his chest and his forehead on his animal and said, and very peacefully took back Mecca, and it hasn't been given up since. And that's exactly where it happened because we were able, the Muslims were able to build their forces in a context of peace. This is what the Muslims need. Dr. White pointed out, since 1990, millions of lives have been killed by the Americans in the West and the war against the Muslims. Started with George Bush the first, right? Now, if we can position ourselves, Dr. White, and this might seem long shot to everybody, if we can position ourselves as a force here in the West, in the belly of the beast, to negotiate the truce and the truce amongst the non-Muslims, America, Israel, and everybody else on behalf of the Muslims. This is the only thing that we have that we can do is to stop the bloodshed and to stop the killing. They have the biggest military, okay, in the history of the world. And we're not going to defeat that, even if we get into a ground game and send body bags like the Vietnamese did during the Vietnam Wars. 57,255, one of my favorite numbers. You go over there fucking with people, and then you're going to fuck around and find out, all right? So Darul Hutna, the negotiated truce, is what we can do on our behalf. We have no weapons. Anyway, Dr. White.
The problem is that the United States, with what they did in Venezuela, what they did in Iran, and what they have done throughout the world in the last 12 months, have shown that the American negotiators are not honest brokers. It's very difficult to negotiate with people who are deceiving and dishonest, and the truth is not in their heart. You know, I want to backstep just a little bit. While this, I want to, and that is that while we were talking about Venezuela oil and Iran's oil, we forgot something else. That's Haiti. We forgot that while President Trump operated something called Operation Southern Spear that went in and kidnapped the president, he left 5,500 American troops in Haiti. Now, Haiti, just remember, they found oil reserves in Haiti that really is much larger than the ones in Venezuela. And those oil reserves in Haiti is not hard crude oil like they have in Venezuela, but it's lighter crude, which they have in Iran, which is easier to use, easier to export, easier to transport. And so while we're talking about that, the United States is busy still undermining Haiti and subtracting and taking control over their oil reserves. That's something that we can't forget. One of the things that I find so interesting in reference to the Arab and the Muslim world and the African world, the global South. Why is it so difficult for the global South just to completely boycott Israel? And if that means the United States will do so, why is that so difficult? All right.
Yeah. So let Art jump in on that, on the global South question. Before you do that, just want to mention that Dr. White is running for congressman in District 10 in Orlando. Let's get him voted. I always had a question before, Art, you answered that question from Dr. White about the global South and the question mark. A question to you, Dr. White. Why didn't you just take Zionist money, man? Why didn't you just sell out to the Zionists like the rest of your colleagues and get voted in, like, you know, Jasmine Crockett and Hakeem Jeffries? Hakeem Jeffries got almost $2 million from these Jews. Let's go.
Jeffries and Crockett and McCormick, they are political whores. All right, they will sell their money to the Zionists, their mother. So therefore, I choose not to be like that. In fact, about it, some of them came to me and said, if I change my position, they would give me so much and they would make sure that I win. But I'm not going to do this because I will always stand on the side of the people. I will stand on what is right. I will stand on what is integrity and how we can create a better society. But I will not align myself with any group, anyone that is against the people, that is against what is right, what is against what is truth. So they can take their money. If Crockett wants to be a whore, let her be a whore because she will go down. All whores go down. All right? And if Jeffrey's like that, let him be that way. He would go down too.
Hakeem the dream. So Dr. White, Dr. White had a question, Art, that we're going to close out the show.
But we do need your support.
The question mark about the global South.
Yeah, that kind of threw me, but it is what we really need to do is be unified and learn how to put together coalitions once again and start that movement of organization on our own. I mean, we have to do that. We have to organize among the Islamic world. We have to organize among the African world, Pan-African world, and that's what the Muslim Street is all about. So when we talk about being competitive to some of the major networks, you know, you've got the SCURV network that we're being broadcast on. There's no difference technically between the SCURV network and CNN or MSNBC for that matter. You put together programming like this and then you make it continuous and you make it relevant and you build on that platform. And the fact that it's streamed on the internet makes it equal to everything else that's out there. It's as accessible as the rest of it. It only lacks in marketing, perhaps. So this is an area that I've worked in for a long time. Not only was I involved in the organization of the National Association of Black Journalists, but I was also one of the co-founders of the national or the NBMC, which is the National Black-Owned Broadcasters Association as well. Also the coalition, the National Black Media Coalition, I meant to say, along with Pluria Marshall, who is one of my dear friends. But to that end, we can and do affect the structure around broadcasting both nationally and internationally. We've lost a lot of our regulatory teeth that we could do to try to redress some of these things. And that's something, Dr. White, once you get in Congress, I'd like for you to pay attention to is the regulatory structures that are in play here, and put back some of the things that we use to create more ownership and broaden the spectrum of how Black people can use and have access to the media in this country, at least the hardware. Right now, most of that is in the hands of one group. And they've been very careful to consolidate that ownership in that one group. And it does make...
Is that the play called Clear Channel? Can you talk a little bit about how Clear Channel just took over terrestrial radio?
Well, it's not so much the radio, but we were talking earlier about all of the media organizations from CNN to Warner Brothers, and that whole piece. That is basically a cabal of billionaires that are trying to essentially eliminate any diversity and ownership across the boards, even in this country. And that's what media has always been built on in this country, is diversity. And up until the last 10 or 15, 20 years, it has been really how we play. But unless we get diversity back, we're not going to get diversity and ownership back. We're not going to be able to recapture some of that mainstream element. But again, we've got the World Wide Web, and we've got elements kind of on the periphery that keeps us doing what we're doing right now. We're on the SCURV network.
And Dr. White, can you restate your question to Art concerning the Sahel?
Yeah, and that is, why is it so difficult for the countries in the Sahel and the other countries in the global South to just easily boycott, put economic sanctions on Israel or the United States?
Yeah, well, it's basically boils down to balkanization and the fact that we're so splintered in the global South. We mentioned again the number of countries in Islam that are there, as opposed to one China or one Russia, one India, one United States. We talk about Africa being 54 countries that are all divided. Division,
but the world
fractionalization is our problem.
The world did that with South Africa. We did that with South Africa. All right.
What do you mean?
A number of African countries boycotted South Africa during the apartheid regime.
Right.
All right. So I mean, so if we can do South Africa, then surely we should be able to do Israel.
Well, again,
unless there's something else, unless there is an inferiority complex that we have to deal with.
There's a religious dimension that has things tied up into a ball of confusion, so to speak, for a lot of countries. But you're right; it still needs the organization and the structure. We need to divide the religion of Judaism from Zionism. And we need to go along with the movement to do that in part. But theoretically, and because of the white supremacist elements that are being tied, because they're trying in the white supremacist movement in Anglo-America and in the US to co-opt and bring essentially Judaism into that structure, and they've successfully done that. So that could take an entire show just on that subject, and I'm certainly not afraid to address that issue. I think we should, but that's where that answer is a little bit more complicated than I think we can unravel here.
Malik, can I make one last statement?
Yeah, sure.
And that is, please support our campaign. If we can get 10,000 people and give $25 each or $20 each, that would help us substantially. Because the only way the establishment wins, my brothers and sisters, is that they are able to lock us out financially. All right. And we can't just talk about, well, Dr. White had a good message or he was on point. If you don't give, and no matter where you are, if you're in Hawaii or if you're in Puerto Rico or Guam, you can give because you're an American citizen. All right, please. $25, $20 is just 2 Big Macs. So please go, you can Zelle it at 407-484-5673. You can go to our website, drisaforcongress.com. You can go to our GoFundMe page, and we can do it several ways. And if you want, you can just mail us a check or a money order. We'll take it anywhere you want. So thank you.
All right. Well, again, you've been listening to The Muslim Street. We'll see you guys next week for Art Mobley, founding member of the National Association of Black Journalists, along with Dr. Viper White, running for Congress, District 10, vote early and vote often. Also for Lance Skirp, producing The Muslim Street out of Accra, Ghana. I am Malik Aziz, and we will see you next week. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you. Ramadan Mubarak.